What's up everybody? Today I want to show you guys how I make large batches. And I think large is definitely like different for everybody and what business you have. I remember when I first started, something just this big, which is 1,000 grams, was a big batch to me. And I do have a video showing how I make larger batches like this. So if a 1,000 gram batch is a large batch to you, I'll link that video down below. Nowadays, a large batch to me is about anywhere between 9,000 grams to like 10,000 grams. Just depends on how many orders I have for that item. I do sell in bulk and private label now over on Etsy if you guys want to go check that out. So I do make larger batches. I'll sell my face washes in about half gallons. These are the larger batches for me. A larger batch to you may be even bigger, like 5 gallons, maybe something in like a 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, it's different for everybody. This is a large batch for me. So let's get started. So this is the tub I store all my beakers in, which I do need to get a bigger one because all my beakers do not fit in it anymore. So for larger batches, these 3,000 gram beakers have been a lifesaver. They are huge. So I know if I just make one 3,000 gram batch, I'll have enough to cover all the orders I got. But since the Rosy Facial Cleanser is my best-selling product, I'm gonna go ahead and just make two 3,000 gram batches. So I got plenty to go around. And then I also need some 1,000 gram beakers because these will come in handy. You'll see how I use them. So altogether, we're gonna be making a 6,000 gram batch, but in two separate beakers. And then I'm also using two 1,000 gram beakers to assist. And like I said, you'll see why. So I want to make this clear before we get started. I'm not going to be sharing the actual formula to this face wash in this video because I don't share the formulas to the products I sell on Etsy. I'm just showing you guys how I go about making such a large batch. So you're going to need a big scale. This is the scale that I usually use in my videos, and this scale only holds up to 500 grams. So we know that's not gonna be big enough. This scale holds up to 1,500 grams. And again, that's not enough to hold the full 3,000. So that's where these 1,000 gram beakers come in handy. I will link down below to this exact scale that I use. I love it. I've had no issues with it so far. And I'll also link to my video where I review this scale, and it includes a coupon code in that video. So the first thing I do is use my larger beaker, the 3,000 milliliter beaker, and I use this to weigh out my thickener. This is also when I add my coloring, then my humectant, and then you just want to mix everything together. And then I'm going to do the same with my other 3,000 milliliter beaker. And you really want to make sure you're not adding too much into the beaker on the scale, because although the scale can hold 1,500 grams worth of product, you also need to take into account the beaker as well. And this is a really heavy beaker. So if this phase that you're starting out with is heavier than mine, then it won't work. Just keep that in mind. Alright, so now that we have both of the thickening phases complete, we can move on to the next phase. So for this next phase, I'm going to weigh it out in this 1,000 milliliter beaker because I know that I can fill this beaker all the way up with materials and it won't be too much weight for this scale to handle. So that's the whole reason I'm weighing things out in a separate container, and then I'll pour it into my other phase. You'll see. And once this beaker is filled up, I'm gonna grab my other beaker and fill this up with some material. So now that we have all of our phase B weighed out, this is all just one phase, but it's divided within two different beakers. Since I can't fill up just one whole beaker with the full amount because it'll be too heavy for my scale. Does that make sense? So when you have something you need to weigh out that is too heavy for your scale, weigh it out in separate containers. That way you can get it all weighed out. So this is the first phase we worked on that I'm going to call phase A. This is the thickening phase, and this is phase B, which is basically my water phase. I'm gonna go ahead and pour my whole water phase into my thickening phase, both beakers. And then this is my overhead mixer. I do have a video reviewing this. I'll link it down below. But I like to use this to mix large batches. If you make a batch that's 1,000 grams or smaller, you don't need the overhead mixer. But if you make anything bigger than that, I highly recommend it because it's really difficult to get it mixed by hand. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do the same exact process for my other batch. All right, so now we're on the last and final phase of the face wash. And again, I'm gonna weigh it out in my 1,000 milliliter beaker, the one we used for the last phase. Because if I were to place this beaker on the scale, it would weigh way too much. But if you have a scale that can hold all that weight, you could totally do that. But it is always a good idea to weigh things out separate, just in case you accidentally pour too much. You don't end up having to waste it all. And now I can go ahead and pour this into one of them, and then do it again for the second batch. And before I start mixing everything together, I have one more thing to weigh out. And before adding in the very last phase that I just weighed out, I'm gonna mix in what I just added in. So basically that's it. I still have some more mixing I need to do just to make sure everything is well incorporated. I think the hardest part is definitely the mixing process. You just want to make sure everything is mixed together. And I swear, as soon as you think everything's mixed together, you'll notice like it's not. And what I always like to do is just look at the bottom of the beakers as well to make sure everything's mixed in. But yeah, so that's how I make really large batches. If I wanted to make even more rosy facial cleanser, I would grab another 3,000 milliliter beaker and just make another batch, and then I would have a total of 9,000 grams of my face wash. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see any other videos like this. I mean, obviously over different topics. I can't really think of any examples right now, but let me know down in the comments. Talk to you guys next time. Later.
I'm stuck in the motions. I've been consumed by the wrath of time, like I'm shattered in this life. It's still the path that I've chosen, because I've had a vision.